So we're going to quickly revise all the pronouns, direct object pronouns, indirect object pronouns, and when we talk about indirect object pronouns, we're going to talk about e, on, all of those things. And we're doing this because the last time we studied pronouns, we had not done passé composé, we had not done reciprocal. So all those things we had not studied. We have studied all those things now. So this is our third and final visit, kind of, back to pronouns. Okay. Subject pronouns, everybody's aware. Je, tu, il, elle, on, nous, vous, il, elle. Okay. One thing that I need to keep telling you is that il can also mean it. For example, le chat est assis sur la chaise. So you are basically referring to the le chat by il. Okay. La ville, you are referring to it as elle. You can replace this subject with subject pronoun. It doesn't have to be just human subject. I mean, it can also referring to a non-human subject. Because yesterday I saw on the community that they were talking about the video, the live session that I conducted, and somebody said, "Il est très bon." For a moment, I thought she was talking about me, and I was very happy. I was like, "Wow, people like me." But then I realized she was talking about the video. In that case, it should have been.
It would be L.
Yeah.
Video is feminine.
Yeah. But because she made a mistake, I also made a mistake, kind of like that she liked me. But yeah, whatever. So we are talking about now direct object pronouns. By the way, some people don't know, but these are also called as say or they. Yeah, complément object direct. Okay. So these are me, te,
Le, la, L apostrophe. Nous, vous, les.
Right. Okay. So everyone understands direct object pronouns. You use them to replace direct object. What do you understand by direct object?
You can say je regarde la télé.
Je regarde la télévision. So this is an example of direct object. We say it's a direct object because this is verb, subject, verb, and this is object. Object directly follows the verb. There's no preposition in between. That's why it's a direct object. And to replace this, we will use direct object pronoun. So this sentence, how will we write using object pronoun, direct object pronoun?
Je la regarde.
Nice. Cool. One rule that we probably learned and we should remember is that, you guys remember that when do we use sala or sa?
You use salah for an abstract concept that cannot be broken down into one gender.
Awesome. So can you give me an example of that?
J'aime beaucoup passer mes vacances en France. J'aime beaucoup cela.
Yeah, so here, what's the direct object? Direct object is this whole concept, idea, right? To spend the vacations in France. Now, you cannot assign a gender to this, right? This is an idea. You cannot assign a gender. So, you will replace this with an object pronoun sala in writing. And the difference here is that it comes after the verb. So, it becomes j'aime beaucoup cela. Unlike other direct object pronouns, it will not come before. J'aime beaucoup cela. Or if you are speaking this informal manner, you can say j'aime beaucoup ça. So that is one quick revision I wanted to do of direct object pronouns. L'artiste chante la chanson, l'artiste la chante, simple. In negative sentence, the direct object pronoun comes immediately before the conjugated verb. That's simple enough. Nous ne l'acceptons pas. In the inversion interrogative sentences, the direct object pronoun comes at the beginning. This is something you need to remember or you need to practice. Okay. Le connaissez-vous? Do you know him, the dentist? Le connaissez-vous? Approuvez-vous sa décision? L'approuvez-vous? Aimez-vous les chansons de Belle? Les aimez-vous?
Oui.
Okay. For example, this. Pouvez-vous contacter le journaliste? Now, this object is associated with infinitive verb, the secondary verb in this sentence. Pouvez-vous contacter le journaliste? So, the direct object pronoun, when you replace this with the direct object, it goes before the infinitive, not at the beginning. Correct? Simple enough to understand this?
Oui.
For example, il doit finir son article. He must finish his article. Now, article must be finished. So this is more closely associated with finished. So, Il doit le fini. Now, passé composé. And this is where we need to revise a little bit again. Okay. So usually, when you use avoir as the auxiliary verb, the past participle doesn't match with the gender and noun of the subject.
Oui.
And when you use être as auxiliary verb, past participle usually matches with the gender and number of the subject. Okay. But in case of avoir, we have a couple of exceptions. One we know already is the journalist took the photos. Okay. Now, what's the direct object here?
Les photos.
Nice. This is direct object. If I want to replace this with direct object pronoun, what pronoun I will use?
Les, before the verb. Le journaliste a les pris.
No, it goes before the auxiliary verb.
Les a pris, yeah. And because this is a direct object, now we'll have to match.
Yes. Now, direct object is coming before the verb, the auxiliary verb. Even though we are using avoir as an auxiliary verb, the past participle, now it has to match the gender and number of the direct object pronoun. Okay. This is actually feminine, isn't it? La photo. So this will become what then, Sunil? Extra E and S, right? Because now it has to match, participle has to match the number and gender of the direct object pronoun, which here is feminine plural because it is la photo, so le photo. This is imperative commands. We have learned them. One thing you have to remember in commands, okay, is in the affirmative commands, positive commands, mo and to, whether they are direct object pronoun or indirect object pronoun, they will change to moi, toi, right? Appelle-moi. And for others, not for moto, so this is le, it comes after the verb. Appelez-le. Rendez-les. Achetez ces fleurs. Achetez-les, because this is now direct object. This is les. It will come after the verb with an hyphen. In the negative commands, it remains the similar way. It comes before the verb. So this is affirmative commands. These are negative commands. Right? This one actually. This is still positive. Éteindre. Éteindre is to switch off. Don't switch off the light. N'éteins pas la lumière. Ne l'éteins pas. So in this case, in the negative commands, the direct object pronoun comes before the verb, where in affirmative commands, it comes after the verb with a hyphen. So we are now revising the indirect object pronouns, which are me, te, lui. This could be M apostrophe, T apostrophe. Okay. We need to be careful because le could also be adjective possessive, le and leur, right? So be aware of that. When do we use indirect object pronouns? Can you quickly give me an example of a sentence with an indirect object? Je parle à Kaustup. Now here, this is subject, verb, object, but this is an indirect object because there's a preposition a between the verb and the object. So object doesn't follow the verb directly. That's why it's not direct object, it's an indirect object. Okay. And to replace this indirect object, Kaustub is a third person singular. So what will we use? The indirect object pronoun?
Lui.
So the sentence will become, it will come before the verb. Je lui parle. Okay. Generally the verbs that will use this, écrire, à, envoyer, à, to send, right?
Répondre à.
Répondre à, right?
Répondre.
So we are using avoir as an auxiliary. The journalist took photos, and then this was a direct object, so we replaced it with direct object pronoun. Now it came before the auxiliary verb, right? So now the past participle has to match the gender and number of the direct object pronoun. But in case of indirect object pronouns, this is not the case. I spoke to Tanvi. Here Tanvi is the indirect object, okay? Because there's a preposition between the verb and the object. I'll replace it with Tanvi. Which indirect object pronoun I'll use to replace you?
Lui.
Yes. Je lui ai parlé before the auxiliary conjugated verb. Je lui ai parlé. Okay. Let's say instead of je parle à Tanvi et Ankita, right? Now, this is plural, third person. So, how will I replace this?
Je le
Je leur
ai
ai.
parlé.
In both the cases, this Louis represents feminine singular indirect object. Here, leur represents feminine plural indirect object. Still, unlike direct object pronouns, the past participle doesn't match with the gender or number of the indirect object pronoun, even though it is coming now before the conjugated auxiliary verb, that is avoir. If you use direct object pronoun, which then comes before the avoir auxiliary verb, the past participle has to match in gender and number of the direct object pronoun. But that is not the case with indirect object pronoun. Clear?
Yes.
The past participle never agrees with an indirect object pronoun. In the interrogative sentences, with inversion specifically, the indirect object pronoun will come first, like will come before the verb. And this is the similar thing with direct object pronoun that we saw. Louis, as-tu parlé de ce livre? Did you talk to him about this book? M'avez-vous envoyé un courriel? Did you send me an email? Elle ne nous envoie jamais rien. So when it is a negative sentence, the indirect object pronoun will come before the verb. That's very simple. Imperative. When it's a positive imperative, there can be two imperative, positive, negative, right? Imperative means giving orders. Téléphone-moi, call me. Okay. Prêtez-lui, to lend him something, like what's your dictionary. Apportez-nous, bring us. Envoyez-leur, send them, right? So hyphen, notice the hyphen. Envoyez-leur le script, send them the script. This is negative commands. Don't give them anything. Wow, this must be Donald Trump. Ne vous téléphonez pas si tard. No, sorry. Don't call us so late.